everyone. So in this video, I'm just going to share with you some concepts of cladograms and go over the cladogram activity that you did in class today. So the big idea about cladograms is that we can look at organisms on a cladogram and see that they all have a common ancestor, and we can also look to see how traits have kind of changed over time and what traits separate one organism, one species from another. Like you saw in their initial video, cladograms kind of move in terms of time from left to right. It also moves in terms of the organisms and their characteristics from left to right. So, for example, all organisms on this cladogram have a vertebrae because everything is to the right of this vertebrae characteristic. But only from ray-finned fish up have a bony skeleton. Only from amphibians up have 4 limbs. So those sorts of things are separating them out on this cladogram. So we'll go over some examples, and I think it'll help a little bit more. So what trait separates amphibians from primates? So I look at amphibians, I look at primates. What separates them is that primates have an amniotic egg. It just means that their egg during development has an amniotic sac around it to protect it, to provide it with nutrients. I know that because amniotic egg is in between the two. Left of that, these organisms don't have it. To the right of it, these organisms do. What separates rabbits and primates from crocodiles on this cladogram? So because this term, eggs with shells, that is to the left, or what is to the left of it is rabbits and rodents and primates, and then crocodiles and birds are to the right. These organisms have eggs with shells, these ones do not. Which organism is most related to the bird on this cladogram? When we see organisms that are closer together on the cladogram, that is evidence that they are closer related in terms of evolution. So since these two organisms are most closely placed on the cladogram, they are the closest in terms of being related. What 5 traits do the bird and its closest relatives share? Since they're close together, they share these traits: eggs with shells, amniotic egg, 4 limbs, bony skeleton, and they have a vertebrae, a backbone. Which organism will have DNA most similar to the bird? So because they're most closely related, if I were to look at the DNA sequences in their cells, they would have a more similar sequence of DNA to each other than to any other 2 organisms on the cladogram. Which organism's DNA will differ the most from the bird? Just like being closer together shows that they're more closely related, being farther apart shows that they're more distantly related. So birds and sharks would have less DNA in common on the cladogram. You have a second cladogram, name a trait that only humans and gorillas share. Something that only the 2 of them would share is that they have mammary glands, basically meaning that they can feed their young milk. Which 2 organisms are most closely related? The worm and the tuna, or the worm and the frog? Since the worm and the tuna are closer together, they are more closely related than the worm and the frog. They are more distantly related. 2 characteristics that the turtle and the frog have in common. You could actually put 3. The turtle and the frog all have an amnion, which is another way to say amniotic sac. They have 4 limbs and they have a skeleton. And what characteristic separates the chicken from the turtle? So when we talk about that, we see this kind of branching off here. So these guys share an egg with a shell. However, what makes a chicken different from a turtle is that it is bipedal. It walks on 2 feet as opposed to 4. Lastly, you have one looking at common insects. What makes a silverfish different from all the other insects on there? Well, all of the other insects will have the traits to the right of this, which is wings. Since the silverfish is not in that group, that makes it different. The silverfish does not have wings. What makes the bee different from all other ones? Well, it's the only one that has a stinger because it's the only species that's to the right of this characteristic stinger. Which organisms have foldable wings? I look for the trait. Anything to the left of it will have that. So that would be the dragonfish and have foldable wings, my bad, above it. So foldable wings would be this way: aphid, beetle, and bee. We don't see these foldable wings in the silverfish and the dragonfly. All right, I hope this cleared things up. There are multiple videos, the one you watched in the Do Now and at the top of this doc, that you can also use for additional information.